Hello. I would like to talk today about a project, an initiative that we all as SEPeers can do together, and it is perhaps the world's most important initiative in terms of its ability to save the planet. It's the implementation of the Paris Agreement, which is designed to reduce emissions to keep them within the 1.5 degree Celsius band in order to stop global warming. We are already involved in this initiative through this organization called NDC Partnership. That is formed by over 100 countries and 80 international organizations to help the countries implement the Paris Agreement. So what is this all about? It's about this $10 bill. When I was leaving for the first time to study in the United States for a year, my father gave me an old, wrinkled $10 bill. So for me, it's a symbol of how I started my journey, but also a symbol of inflation. Right now, the purchasing power of those $10 is about twice less. So the dollar's lost half of the value, which is actually not so bad in terms of inflation at all in 20 or so years. It is much worse when it comes to climate. The time value of money ratio is much, much higher. And I call that phenomenon green inflation. What is green inflation? If we think about how much we need to spend now to save the planet, a few years from now, 10 years from now, we're going to need to spend many, many times more because time passes. There are different calculations about that. Nobody actually agrees on the exact number. But one of the numbers out there is that if we imagine it takes $1 trillion to fix the climate change now, and that number is bigger, by the way. That's the traditional number, but it's much bigger now. Then in 10 years, it's going to be 100 trillion. So that type of increase in investment to achieve the same effect, just depending on the timing when you actually do that. So this chart shows how it happens. It's prepared by the Global Association of Risk Professionals, and it shows that if we had started this process in the 90s or year 2000 or even 2010, we wouldn't have been where we are now, and we would have been able to keep the global warming at 1.5 degrees increase. And now we're on the path not to meet that target anymore. So then, what can we, as SEPeers, do about that? And how do we get involved? The organization that I mentioned at the beginning, the NDC Partnership, let me tell you a little bit more about it. NDC stands for Nationally Determined Contributions. These are the goals to reduce the climate emissions that the countries under the Paris Agreement set for themselves, and then they implement them. The NDC Partnership is preparing a large mobilization framework to help the countries meet their goals. And we, as Reaction, are involved as experts in that process, which is an amazing privilege. So when we looked at the mobilization framework, one thing was very apparent, that it was really designed for long-term solutions, for project finance, blended finance. For those of us who have worked on these projects, we know that they take 7, 10 years to implement from inception. So for the goals that are already due in 2030 and that will be due in 2035, they basically will not make a difference anymore for meeting those goals. So it is very useful, but on the too late side of the green inflation issue that I'm describing. So our proposal was to create a fast track. The fast track is basically a parallel track that would expedite the action under the Paris Agreement. Miraculously, they accepted our ideas. So this is the homework that has already been done. The essence of the fast track is, it actually has to do with the process that the NDC partnership currently uses. So the current process is that the countries come to the organization with their requests. For example, Argentina comes and says, we want to develop solar energy more. How can you help us mobilize funding for these projects and maybe incentives for the legislative framework? And the NDC partnership pulls together the resources and helps them do it. So our idea for the fast track is to reverse that process, not to reverse, to keep it, but to have a parallel process that is basically the opposite, that the NDC partnership takes the initiative and prepares this easy, fast, pre-packed solutions that are proven solutions that actually do decrease emissions and mobilize the private sector. Because it's really the private sector that is the most agile player that is able to make the change the fastest. And an example would be carbon pricing coupled with carbon credits in a more sort of profound way, legislation about that. So, and there are many others. And package them in simple, easy chunks, digestible by the governments, and push out, advertise those solutions to over 100 governments that are the countries that are the members. And they could pick and choose from the menu. So that was basically the idea. So I have a question for you, first of all. So how many of you think that that is not going to make much of a difference in terms of expediting the climate change? Not expediting the climate change, but expediting the action against the climate change. Okay, how many of you think that actually it could make a pretty significant difference if we go with that process? Thank you. So this has already been accepted as our ideas. Now somebody has to do it. So of course, we need to be involved in that stage. And that's what I'm proposing to you. This is not a big time commitment at all. At least for you, it will not be. It is just an invitation to brainstorm, to contribute ideas that could make a big difference in creating those solutions for over 100 countries and pushing them out there. So that is all I'm asking. So for the rest of our time here, if you want to be part of that, please reach out to me. Talk to me, give me your ideas, brainstorm. And in the meantime, if anyone already has any thoughts about it and where it could go or anything to share on the subject, I'm inviting you to share these thoughts now. Anyone brave? to help 100 countries save the world. Diana? Go ahead. Thank you. A very important question. The process that the NDC partnership follows is that the focus is more on the developing countries. And because both developing and developed countries are part of the organization, as well as about 80 other organizations, primarily international, like the World Bank, the IFC, and all of those, when they get a request from the country, they reach out and they get sponsors. And they're always able to put together the resources just because their access is so amazing and everybody is a member. So they do get funding that way for everything. Go ahead, Brian.
Thanks for the talk. I was interested, so we've had a chat already, and I guess partly what I was wondering is do you see this as part of this as, I guess, resolving the disagreements that probably exist between experts on the best way to do things? So I guess I have a sense of, one of the problems is people don't agree on what a fast track solution would be, what the right answer actually is for different countries, what the costs would be. So there's a lot to, we don't have a good baseline for what these things are. And I guess part of what the challenge and the opportunity in this is, do you see it as trying to resolve those differences to arrive at a consensus for kind of best practice?
Brian, thank you for thinking about that. So the answer is that, of course, there will be disagreements. In terms of the process, we have an in because these are our ideas that got into the framework, which does not mean that our next ideas are going to be accepted, but it does give us partially a leadership role in this process. The experts that could be pulled in, it's a very big group. Like last time, the consultations with the private sector, there were about 80 experts on the Zoom call that we had. So it was incredible, very, very distinguished people. So we actually could get opinions from a lot of them, and then surveys and anything we want. The access that this organization has is incredible. But at the end of the day, the call will be by the NDC partnership because it will be their decision as to what they are comfortable basically marketing to over 100 countries as the best solutions. And it is going to be more than one. So the answer is, if it's good enough, if it could be packaged in a user-friendly way, it could be presented among, in the menu, basically, along with the others.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Go ahead.
And what they have done, it's you might be aware of a lot of advertising exchanges, especially online advertising. They have created a system where the buyers and sellers of the advertising know the carbon footprint of the companies they are either buying ads from or selling ads to. So it creates kind of a private marketplace pressure point for companies to then trade with partners who have better carbon footprint, for example. So this is one of the ideas where the market forces can induce the right behavior, kind of a public shaming way, without too much bureaucracy or too much governmental intervention. So that's just one example. I wanted to just pass it on to you.
Thank you. The beauty of this process is that we're starting on a clean slate. So there is no there are no preconceived ideas as to what form it could take. This is just starting. The new modelization framework, the revised one, is just coming out right now. So it can go anywhere, from proposing the technological solutions, from taking a 100-page World Bank report on carbon pricing and turning it into a format that could be used for creating laws easily by the governments. So any type of solution is on the table right now. So it's a perfect moment for brainstorming. So thank you. Yes, thank you for suggesting.
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. I guess it's lunchtime already. So thank you for listening.